Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the shop. In this video, we're gonna make these open shelving units for the kitchen that we just made. Here we go. All right, so we are back. Obviously, there was no video last week. Sorry about that. Planned on it, and it was a week getting ready for delivery, and it was just craziness. So I didn't really have the time. But this week, we're back in action. I think it's worth mentioning to start that, and I think I've mentioned it before, this is part of the project that we just delivered with the island and those big pocket doors and everything. If you haven't been following along, you should go back and watch some of those videos. But this project, the designer is, I don't have any design input really on any of this stuff. Designer designs it and I build it. So there is typically working with like homeowners and stuff like that, or even some of the builders I work with, I do have some design input, but like I said, I think it's worth mentioning that on this project I do not. So none of these things that I've made recently have I designed or anything like that. Not to say that I don't like any of the stuff that I've made, because I think some of these designs are pretty cool, and I actually really dig the design on this shelving unit. So let's build this thing. We're using flats on white oak. Started out with some 8/4, milled down this material for the shelves. And so obviously the shelves are solid wood. And I get these things all glued up. So there's 6 shelves total, 3 for each shelving unit. So these are going in the kitchen on the hood wall. So there's a big giant plaster hood that will be going in between these two units. And these are obviously going to be holding decorative stuff in the kitchen because it's all exposed and there's no doors or anything. And the whole wall behind it is going to have subway tiles. So it's going to look really nice, and the subway tiles will go all the way up to the ceiling. And these will have some lighting in them as well. And when the designer for the design on these changed a couple times, and when I got this design for these, I was a little concerned about how sturdy these things were going to be, and they are rock solid. These things, the shelves notched into those upright pieces with all the dados and stuff, they are stout. So this thing is going to be solid. And then the wall that these are going on, like I said, it's all going to be tile. But we added, the contractor removed the sheetrock and added a bunch of blocking in the wall. So we are going to be anchoring these things, and they're going to be solid. So here's my upright pieces, and I can move over to the table saw to start cutting the dados. Now the dados need to be 1.5 inches, so I cut myself a spacer there so that I could cut these without moving the fence a ton. I want to move the fence a minimal amount. So I use that spacer, I butt my piece into it, and then I can slide over into the fence, and that's the exact size I need for my shelf to fit in it. So I obviously ran some tests on some scrap pieces to get that spacer the right thickness. And then I could just go ahead and cut all the dados. Now I would cut all 4 of them and then move the fence so that they're all perfectly in the same space. Now, you might be thinking, why wouldn't you just take a wide board, run all the dados, and then rip them up? You could do that. To me, I'd be a little bit worried about going to rip them, and if there's tension in the board and the pieces kind of start to warp a little bit. So that's why I did it this way. I milled up all my pieces, flat and straight and all that good stuff. and then I cut the dados. And everything will line up perfect because I cut all 4 of them at the same time before I moved the fence. Well, not at the same time, but I cut them all before I would move the fence. Anyways, shelves got ran through the sander. Then I could cut those down to size. And the shelves are just looking nice. And these things are heavy. They're a full 1.5 inch thick, solid white oak. So you can imagine they're pretty heavy. And then I had to cut a dado in these so that they could sit into the notch on those upright pieces. So cutting this, that's a big cut right there. But I just went slow. Kind of a sketchy cut with the piece standing up like that as well. But I did the same procedures I did before. Cut a spacer, the right thickness I need so I could just butt into it, make a pass, and then butt into the fence and make a pass. And these just get the notch on the ends because that's where it will anchor to the upright pieces. And now these shelves are not adjustable. All those dados are just for the look, but they are going to be fixed in place. And then on to something else. Remember that island and these end panels were supposed to get a giant 2-inch radius. And designer changed her mind. So I waited a little while because I was waiting for the cutters for those. And then after she came by and we were talking about something else and she got a look at the island, we went from a 2-inch radius down to an 1/8 inch radius, which is fine. And I think it looks pretty nice. The island is really cool, and I cannot wait to show you guys all of this stuff installed. Greg has been there all week, knocking things out. He's almost done with phase 1 because we have to go back after countertops are installed to install a bunch of cabinets that sit on top of the countertop. Back to the shelving unit. Time to get these things sanded. Designer called out for us to soften all of the edges on this thing with an 1/8 inch round over. So there was some tedious sanding involved as well. And then on the shelves, everything got a round over also. And then you can see the groove in the bottom of the shelf there. So Rowdy did go ahead and routed those shelves. And there he's putting the texture on it with the wire wheel, but he routed all those grooves. So the bottom shelf has a groove in the middle on the bottom with a light that will shine down. And then it also has a light or a groove on the top of the shelf in the back. And so do the other shelves as well, the top 2 shelves. So the light will shine up. Again, this is all details that the designer called out for. So we routed that groove. It's going to get an aluminum C channel with a diffuser. And there's holes in the back that we drilled down into it so they can feed their wires right into there. And after all this stuff got Rubio, I could assemble it. So I did get some glue in there and then just pound it into the right spacers, or with the right spacing that the designer wanted. And then we did add some big old screws in the back to tighten everything up. And I'm telling you guys, this thing is stout. Like, these are solid. So these little apron pieces are going to go in the back underneath each shelf. So we're just going to put some biscuits in them, and then we'll glue them up. Could have used Tensos here, just decided to use regular biscuits. I actually use regular biscuits a lot in the shop, probably more than I use the Zeta. I think it's the biscuit joiner. To me, I know not all guys use biscuit joiners, but for me, it's an essential tool. And so I did use, because the stuff had Rubio on it, so in the biscuit slots I used, yellow wood glue. And then when I glue up the piece to the surface with the Rubio on it, I use Ru glue, which Ru glue is good for non-porous surfaces. It'll just stick better than yellow glue. And then we just clamp it up. And so speaking of the lamello, if you guys need anything lamello, you need biscuits, you need tensos, Clamex connectors, you need a biscuit joiner, either the Classic X, the Top 21, or I think that's what it is, or the Zeta P2. If you're interested in one, hit me up. My email is below. I'll get you connected with a sales rep, and they'll take care of you. And then you can continue to do all your ordering through them for biscuits and whatever else you need. And this thing just looks cool. I like this shot. You can kind of see all the grooves, see how nice and tight everything is fitting in the back. It all just came together really well. So pretty stoked with how it turned out. I can't wait to see these hung on the wall. It's going to look pretty sick. And you can't beat them Harbor Freight clamps, man, for how cheap they are. Dude, I have some Harbor Freight clamps that I've had, like the 24-inch ones. I actually just bought a bunch of those 12-inch ones, but I have some 24-inch ones that I've had for 7 or 8 years, and I beat those things up. But anyways, there it is. You can see this thing is actually very heavy, but I mean, I kind of pick it up by the shelves, and it is, there's no flex or anything at all. So very strong shelving unit, and it looks pretty cool, I think. And it's going to look really cool on the wall with all the lighting. And that's it. There it is. Rubioed and ready for delivery. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This is kind of cool, different. Like I said, I don't have any design input on this project at all. This is designer designs it and I build it. So I think they're going to look really cool in the house. All right, I know I've been saying this for months, it seems like, but big changes are coming to the shop. Next week, I'm going to show you guys this place is going to look a lot different. And I'm pretty stoked about it. So stay tuned for that. Patreon link is below. All the other good stuff, like, comment, subscribe. If you want some merch, website's below. And we'll see you next week. Peace.